It's time for another Whimsy Stamps video hop and giveaway. This time the theme is back to school and we're going to be featuring the bookmark and tag die set. Hi, I'm Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. Here are the supplies that I'm going to be using for Whimsy Stamps. We have our bookmark and tags die set, this mermaid stamp where I'm going to be using this beautiful mermaid reading a book, and this wavy die from my trio set to create a stencil for some waves. I'm going to start with getting my paper ready for my stamping. I'm just grabbing my bookmark die here and using it to help me trim down this white cardstock. This is an Express It cardstock. It is great for alcohol marker coloring. It's just a really smooth cardstock, really great for blending. So now that I have my piece of paper cut out, I'm going to get my Misty ready with some scrap paper because my stamps, one of them is going to exceed the size of my paper here. So I want to make sure that I have some scrap paper when I'm ready to stamp that sand hill there, the bottom of my ocean. So first I'm going to stamp my mermaid because I'm going to be doing a lot of masking, which I'm not always the best at. I usually like to layer instead of mask. So I'm going to do my best here and I'm actually pretty proud of how it turns out. But I don't have any masking paper, so I'm going to be using some white paper and pixie spray and post-it notes as you'll see throughout this video. So I've got my first stamp here. My mermaid's going to be in the front, so I want to stamp her first. And I've stamped her towards the bottom center of my bookmark paper. And then I'm going to stamp her again on a post-it note and trim that out so I can block the book part of my image when I stamp my little sandy ocean floor next. So I've got my mask on and now I'm going to line up this stamp so it looks like the book is going to be resting on that sand. And I'm going to stamp it as well. I'm doing all my stamping in a black ink from Ink on 3. That is perfect for marker coloring, alcohol marker coloring. It's my favorite ink. And that way I don't have to worry about any type of smearing when I am using my Spectrum Noir Illustrator markers. So now that those two scenes are done, or those two stamps for my scene are done, I also want to make sure I stamp my sentiment. So I want it to be kind of halfway up my bookmark from my mermaid image, and I want it to be centered. And for some reason I didn't put my bookmark in the corner of my Misty. There's no need to center it now that I'm done with my larger stamp, so I slide that over and I'm going to line it up again using my little corner here to help keep my sentiment straight. And then also when I close my Misty, I'm going to look at the stamp on my grid and make sure that it is as straight as possible using my grid lines on the Misty as a guide. So now I will go ahead and stamp that down onto my bookmark cardstock here. And now all my stamping is done. So I'm actually going to color my mermaid off screen and get right into masking because this is a hop and I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'm going to place those masks on. I have my book still from that post-it, and then I have my top part of my bookmark again with some paper and pixie spray, and I'm going to be using some Distress Oxides for my sandy ocean bottom. I am starting with tea dye and just putting down a layer of that to be the lightest part of my sand. And then I cut another mask of the sand itself, and I'm going to do a darker color for underneath that little sandy hill. And for that I'm using Vintage Photo. I think the other brown I had picked was a little too green, and I really think that Vintage Photo complements tea dye really well. So that is how the bottom of my bookmark is going to be colored. And before I move on to distressing the rest of my bookmark, I'm just going to cover up again, only revealing the brown part of my bookmark to do some splattering. I'm going to be using my dark roast and whipped cream silks from Fun Stamper's Journey, and I'm just going to bring out my splatter box and place my bookmark inside. I'm being overly cautious to make sure I don't get any brown silk anywhere that I don't want it to, so I just grabbed this packaging envelope from my trash bin in my craft room. It looks super dirty. I think someone either stepped on it or it slid across something, but that's okay. My package was, or what I bought inside was just fine. But anyway, so now I am done with that splattering. I'm going to work on cutting out more mass to cover my mermaid and my sand dune so I can work on distressing my ocean while that dries. So now I have edited out the weight and I've started to put on all the masking for my mermaid, and then I'm going to just do a strip across my sentiment here, or my saying for my bookmark, to have that stay white and my mermaid stay protected. And here I'm going to cover my sandy part of my ocean. And now all that's left is what I'm going to be distressing with different shades of blues and teals for my ocean. I use that wavy dye to create a stencil out of some just scrap white paper. And I'm going to start my ocean with Salvaged Patina on the top. And I'm just going to distress this down about, I don't know, I guess I'm using 5 colors, so about a fifth of the way down. And then I'm going to bring out Peacock feathers and use my stencil to start the next color. So once I have plenty of that Salvaged Patina, I'm going to cover it with my stencil, and then I'm going to bring out Peacock feathers and go ahead and blend those two together at the top, and then bring that color down further using my stencil as a stopping point so that way you can see the nice clean edge of a wave. And now I'm going to be using Salty Ocean as my next color. So I'm just going to finish blending in that peacock feather and then grab my blue brush and my next color. I wanted to have a little bit peeking through so that way that Salty Ocean kind of covers where my sentiment is. So a little bit on the top and then bringing that color down underneath that strip covering my quote from the stamp set. And then my next color is going to be Salty Ocean. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Mermaid Lagoon. Now we're in Salty Ocean. And I'm going to, again, block where I don't want the color to go and then apply Salty Ocean to my background, being very careful of my masks and not accidentally ruining all that coloring I did on my mermaid. And then my final color is the new prize ribbon. I just think this blue is so pretty. So again, one final mask and adding that color to the bottom where it meets the sand on my bookmark. And as you can see, I do have some white spots, so I'm actually going to go back the other way and add more color to blend in a little more. So I'm going to use my mask reverse now. So covering up the prize ribbon and bringing back out Salty Ocean, I'm going to blend that a little better and get more color where there was that white. And I actually didn't cover up my prize ribbon all the way on the left, and I really liked it. So I lowered my stencil just a little bit, and that way there's this small little overlap. I kind of like this little thin detail where the two colors are overlapping. So I'm going to repeat that for the rest. So now I'm bringing out Mermaid Lagoon. I'm putting my stencil down, exposing my Salty Ocean just a little bit, and then adding more color. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring out my peacock feathers, cover up the Salty Ocean except leaving just a little bit exposed, and then adding more peacock feather. And then I'm going to bring out Salvaged Patina. Again, same thing, lining up my stencil just a little bit below the wave so I can have that nice thin line between those two colors, have this fun little extra overlap of color. And then now I can move on to adding my splatter. So I'm going to add that same white splatter, the whipped cream color, and I'm just going to splatter that all over my ocean. And then I'm going to get out my sparkle silk. This is just a clear sparkly liquid, and I'm going to splatter that on as well. I wanted to have just a lot of shimmer and shine on this, and this is one easy way to do that. So I can add some sparkle without bulking up my bookmark. And now that I'm done, I'm going to peel off all my mask, which is always a fun part. And then I am going to, I see there's a little bit, this is where I was worried about masking. There was a little bit of white showing. So I took an alcohol marker and tried to add in a little bit of blue. And then I know that there's a couple spots of my image where the distress ink kind of dulled out the black ink of my stamping. So I just have a black marker and tried to very, very carefully add black like a bolder black line back to my stamped image. And now that my bookmark is dry, I'm going to run it through my die cut machine with my die. And I'm just going to use some scrapbook.com mint tape to help keep that in place so it doesn't move. And then I'm also going to use a white piece of scrap paper on the top so I don't accidentally stain my plates with any sparkle silk or distress oxide ink. Now I want my bookmark to last, so I've heated up my Mink machine and I'm just using a laminator sheet. And then I'm going to use my scissors to trim around it and also make sure that I have curved my edges so I don't accidentally poke myself with a corner of my bookmark. I'm using a hole punch to punch through that laminator sheet where the hole is of my bookmark from the die. And then I have this really fun metallic shiny ribbon in my stash. It's super old. I can't link it down below, but just go through your stash if you're making a bookmark. I'm sure everyone has more ribbon than they know what to do with. So I'm just doing a little slip knot over the top. I'm going to use my scissors. I don't know where my orange scissors are. They're somewhere in my house to trim down my ribbon, and now I have my final bookmark. I hope you enjoyed this process and you learned something new. If you did, I hope you'll click that like button. And if you're new here, I hope I've inspired you to subscribe. Here is the info again on the Whimsy Stamps Hop. I hope you'll hop along to everyone for a chance to win. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.